Winter evenings come early in Boston. As snow began to accumulate on the cobblestones of Beacon Hill, Linda Morrison gazed out of her office window. As the marketing director for an IT company, she had just finished another long day. In the photo frame on her desk was a smiling man, her father Harold, who had passed away 3 years ago. "Family comes before everything, Linda." Her father's words echoed in her ears. Linda let out a deep sigh. Since her father's death, her relationship with her mother Helen and her younger sister Diane had gradually grown cold. While Linda appeared calm and caring on the outside, she possessed a strong will inside. That strength was sometimes misinterpreted as coldness by her family. Linda turned off her computer and picked up her coat. She had planned to work late tonight, but suddenly felt the urge to go home. "I've sent over the documents for tomorrow's meeting," she called out to her young assistant. "You should head home too. Your family must be waiting." Back at her apartment, Linda went straight to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of single malt whiskey. Her spacious apartment was furnished with simple yet sophisticated pieces. Photos from her travels around the world hung on the walls, but there were few family pictures. An envelope from her mother lay on the table. She picked it up and sat down on the sofa. Inside was an invitation to a party celebrating her sister Diane's husband Mike's promotion. Linda frowned. Not again. At these recent family gatherings, she always felt a subtle sense of alienation. Since her husband's death, her mother Helen had become increasingly dependent on her younger daughter Diane, while growing more distant from Linda. Diane had recently married Mike and they had just purchased a home in an upscale neighborhood. The phone rang, and Linda picked up her smartphone. The screen displayed, "Mom." "Good evening, Mom." "Linda, did you get the invitation? We're having a lovely party at Diane and Mike's new house. You'll be amazed when you see their home. To think they can afford such a beautiful house at their age, they're such smart kids." Linda listened in silence. Her mother didn't know that she had secretly been covering most of Diane and Mike's mortgage. With her father's words, "Family comes before everything," close to her heart and a desire to support her family, she had been providing financial assistance. "Yes, I got the invitation. I plan to attend." "Wonderful. But I thought you might not come since you always seem so busy." Linda swallowed her words. Her mother had always downplayed her career. "Linda is always so cool and never shows emotions. It's like she looks down on us," her mother would tell others, but in reality, Linda had sacrificed a lot for her family. "I'll definitely be there, Mom." After hanging up, Linda took another sip of whiskey. Outside, the snow had begun to fall heavily. She looked at her father's photo and smiled slightly. "I'm following your advice, Dad. Family is important." What Linda never told anyone was that she was putting a significant portion of her salary toward her sister and brother-in-law's mortgage each month. While Diane and Mike were obsessed with portraying a perfect life on social media, it was actually Linda who was supporting their lavish lifestyle. They would never know that. Still, Linda decided to smile brightly. "Let's all gather at our lovely home for a party." Linda reread Diane's email. Attached were photos of their new home, a modern 2-story house with a well-maintained front yard, captioned, "Our Dream Home." Between meetings, Linda was at a high-end department store selecting a gift for the party. A designer crystal vase, she thought it would perfectly match Diane's new living room the moment she saw it. "Please wrap this," she told the clerk as she handed over her credit card. "Is this for a special occasion?" the clerk asked. "Yes, it's a housewarming gift for my sister," Linda smiled. A new beginning in a new home. Those words held her wish to mend their relationship. For a long time, Linda had felt an invisible wall between herself and her family. Since her father's death, That wall had only grown taller. But today was different. Somewhere in her heart, she hoped this day might be a turning point. Linda left work early and returned home to get ready. She chose a wine-red dress for the special day, adorned with modest yet elegant accessories. Standing in front of the mirror, she saw the reflection of the woman her father once called, "my beautiful and intelligent daughter." "Well, let's go." Taking a deep breath, she picked up the beautifully wrapped gift and headed to the upscale neighborhood in Boston's suburbs. The snow had already stopped, and though the air was clear, a cold wind brushed against her cheeks. Diane and Mike's new home was in a quiet, upscale neighborhood. It was a noticeably prominent white two-story house, with the path to the entrance neatly cleared of snow. As Linda parked her car, she noticed several cars already there. Laughter and music could be heard from inside. Linda got out of her car and walked toward the entrance with the gift in hand. In the streetlight, her figure looked dignified and beautiful. As she approached the door, she could see the lights and shadows moving inside, and someone heading toward the entrance. Before the door opened, Linda took one last deep breath. "Let's enjoy today," she told herself. When the door opened, Linda was prepared to greet everyone with a warm smile. However, the person who greeted her was her mother, Helen. Her expression was different from what Linda had expected. "Oh, Linda," Helen said, sounding surprised. Then, she paused at the threshold and blocked the doorway. "I'm sorry, Linda. This house is for family only, so you'll need to pay an entrance fee if you want to come in." A sarcastic smile appeared on her mother's face. Linda was confused. "What are you talking about?" "Diane invited me," she said, recalling the email invitation. Just then, Diane appeared. She was wearing a kitchen apron and holding a wine glass. The sounds of laughter and conversation could be heard from behind her. "Linda. You came," Diane said brightly for a moment, but then exchanged glances with her mother and a mean smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "But like Mom said, just pay $10. "Oh, that's right, you don't have money, do you?" "Ah." Linda froze. This wasn't just a bad joke. In Diane's eyes, there was an emotion that could be interpreted as either contempt or pity. As relatives and friends began to gather at the entrance and watched awkwardly, Linda felt deeply humiliated. "What are you saying?" she asked quietly. Her voice trembled slightly. "I was invited." "Of course," her mother interjected. "But you're always different from us, aren't you? A successful career woman. Surely you can afford an entrance fee." Linda stood motionless. Despite secretly paying off her sister's mortgage every month, this was how she was being treated. She felt something breaking inside her. "Linda always ruins our good times," Diane said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Don't we deserve to be in a good mood today?" Her mother agreed. "You're always so rigid, and you can't even afford a nice house like this. You need to enjoy life a little." Linda was at a loss for words. Anger and sadness swirled inside her. The relatives and friends around them had confused expressions on their faces. Some people couldn't hide their discomfort and were backing away. Tears welled up in Linda's eyes, but she never let them fall. She had long been skilled at controlling her emotions. That coolness was her strength in the business world, but now it was her only defense. "Fine. You're right," Linda said calmly. She placed the present on the doorstep and said, "This is a gift for you. I'm leaving now." Just as I thought. Linda is always such a boring person, not suited for parties, her mother threw another hurtful comment. Linda said nothing and walked back to her car with her back straight. As she started the engine, she felt something change within her. It wasn't just a feeling of humiliation, but a sensation of releasing emotions she had suppressed for years. When she got home, she sat on the sofa and thought deeply for a long time. Looking at her father's photo, she asked, "Dad, what does family really mean?" Then, she picked up her smartphone and opened her social media account. Normally, Linda didn't post about private matters, but today was different. "Today, I was invited to my sister's housewarming party but was asked to pay an entrance fee because I'm family. Ironically, I've been paying most of my sister's mortgage every month." "What is family?" she posted. As she pressed the send button, Linda let out a deep sigh. Linda's social media post began to create ripples beyond what she could have imagined. She was usually someone who rarely posted anything other than work-related content. Most of her followers were colleagues and industry acquaintances, and there weren't many of them. However, her words that night seemed to resonate strongly with many people. The next morning, Linda woke up to the notification sound on her smartphone. Normally, she would have already returned from jogging and finished breakfast by this time. But last night, she couldn't sleep for a long time after posting. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and checked the notifications. Then, she jumped up in surprise. Her post had received hundreds of comments and thousands of likes. This was unprecedented for her account. Comments kept coming in, with many people starting to share their own complicated family relationships. Linda sat down on her bed. She never thought her personal expression of feelings would resonate with so many people. For a moment, she considered deleting the post. But she was moved to see how many people related to her experience and felt encouraged by it. This had become more than just her personal issue. While making coffee in the kitchen, Linda was deep in thought. She had always been someone who made calm and rational judgments. She rarely acted on emotion. But last night's event seemed to have changed something in her. "Enough is enough," she told herself. "I don't need to sacrifice myself anymore." After taking a sip of coffee, she made a decision. Today, she would go to the bank and stop the payments on her sister's mortgage. Her father's teaching to cherish family surely didn't mean continuing to hurt herself. Before heading to the office, Linda stopped by her local bank branch. She completed the procedure to stop the regular transfers she had been making. "Just to confirm, Ms. Morrison, you're completely stopping the monthly transfers you've been making?" the bank teller double-checked. "Yes," Linda answered quietly but firmly. "Enough is enough. It's time to prioritize my own life." When she left the bank, Linda felt as if her body had become lighter. It was a feeling of liberation. For a long time, she had been caught between family expectations and her own conscience. Now, she had taken the first step toward reclaiming her life. When she arrived at the office, she noticed her colleagues looking at her differently than usual. It seemed her post had already been seen by many people. But Linda focused on her work as usual. Only today, her heart felt strangely lighter. During lunch, her assistant Jessica approached her desk. "Linda, I saw your post," she said quietly. "I've had similar experiences. Thank you for giving me courage." Linda smiled. She hadn't thought her words could empower others. That was an unexpected byproduct. Late in the afternoon, she received an angry call from Diane. "What have you done?" Diane shouted. "Your post has been shared everywhere, and our reputation is ruined. All the neighbors are seeing it." Linda responded calmly, "Diane, I was just expressing my feelings." "But you didn't mention any names," Diane argued. "No one should be able to identify us." "Local people can probably figure it out," Linda said. "And there's one more thing I need to tell you. I've been paying your mortgage all this time, but today I stopped those payments." On the other end of the line, Diane gasped. "What? You're joking, right?" I'm not joking, Linda's voice was quiet but strong. Think about how you treated me yesterday. And ask yourself, if I really had been paying your mortgage, how have you been treating me? Wait, Linda, we didn't know. There was fear in Diane's voice for the first time. You mean you really? I've been silent for a long time, Linda continued. To honor Dad's words, cherish your family. But cherishing family and being exploited are two different things. After hanging up, Linda gazed out the office window. Snow had begun to fall again. She felt that she had entered a new phase in her life. Meanwhile, Diane and her mother were facing another problem. They had received a notice from the bank. We cannot confirm your mortgage payment. Please contact us urgently. Diane and Mike panicked. They couldn't actually afford the high mortgage payments, but they had been relying on someone making monthly deposits. And now, for the first time through Linda's words, they learned that the someone was her. What should we do, Mike? We'll lose the house. Diane broke down in tears. Mike was confused. But who would pay such a large amount? Linda. That plain, rigid sister. She really meant it. Diane trembled as she remembered Linda's words. We didn't know. But that was a lie. Diane had vaguely suspected it. The mysterious support that was deposited regularly each month. But she didn't want to admit it was from Linda. She and Mike had taken out a high mortgage to keep up appearances, and they had come to depend on that mysterious support to escape the pressure of repayment. Linda's social media post spread further and was even picked up by local news sites. It became an article with the headline, "What are family bonds?" Family issues trending on social media. Linda's real name wasn't mentioned, but from the description, her family knew who it was about. The next evening, when Linda returned home from work, she saw a surprising sight. A bouquet of flowers had been placed in front of her apartment. The attached card read, "Thank you for your courage." The sender was anonymous, but similar gifts and letters started arriving at her office and home afterwards. On the third morning after Linda's post, she received a call from a community center. It was an offer. Would you share your experience at our workshop on family relationships and communication? As she was considering how to respond, an urgent news alert came in on her cell phone. The headline on the local news site was shocking. Young couple faces foreclosure due to unpaid mortgage. Family issues on social media become reality. The photo showed people gathered in front of Diane and Mike's house. Linda's heart raced. What was happening? She quickly got into her car and headed to her sister's house. When Linda parked, an unbelievable scene unfolded before her eyes. 20 or 30 people had gathered in front of Diane and Mike's house. They stood quietly in line, some holding handmade signs with messages like, "Seeking honesty in family relationships," and, "Against financial abuse." Among the people were familiar faces who volunteered at the local community center. And surprisingly, a reporter from the local TV station was about to start coverage. Even more surprising was that several people in bank uniforms were discussing something in front of the house, documents in hand. Linda carefully got out of her car and began walking through the crowd. When people noticed her, they made way. Some nodded slightly to her. One woman quietly said, "Thank you for your courage." Amid the confusion, Linda moved forward and finally reached her sister's front door. At that moment, the door opened, and Diane and their mother Helen appeared. Both had pale faces and expressions mixed with fear and anger. "What's going on?" her mother asked in a trembling voice. Her eyes scanned the crowd and finally focused on Linda. "Is this the commotion you brought?" The bank officer stepped forward and explained, "Ms. Morrison, your mortgage payment is overdue. If you don't address this promptly, we'll have to begin foreclosure proceedings." Diane, with a tearful face, shouted, "What are you doing here? To humiliate us more?" Linda answered calmly, "No. I came to talk." Her mother looked at the people around them and blushed with embarrassment. "Making us feel so ashamed, are you really family?" From the crowd, an elderly woman stepped forward. She was one of the first people to comment on Linda's social media post. "I, too, once experienced betrayal by family," she said quietly. "But when the truth comes to light, sometimes it creates an opportunity to repair relationships." Sounds of agreement rose from the crowd. It was clear that this event had evolved from a mere family dispute into a theme of, what are family bonds, that many people could relate to. Linda took a deep breath. "May I come inside the family? I want to talk." Diane and her mother exchanged glances and reluctantly nodded. The three of them entered the house and headed to the living room. The spacious living room, decorated with luxurious furniture, was an ironic place for Linda. How much money had she invested to create this space? "I've been thinking about what family means," Linda began quietly. "Dad taught us to cherish family. That's why I've been silently supporting you financially." But that wasn't the true picture of family, was it? Diane was confused. "What are you saying? That you've been supporting us?" Linda took out her smartphone and showed her bank transaction history. There was a record of her transferring large sums to Diane's mortgage every month for the past 2 years. This is. Diane was at a loss for words. For the first time, a look of shame appeared in her eyes. "You didn't really not know, did you?" Linda said in a gentle but firm voice. "You must have known that without support from someone, you couldn't pay the mortgage on a house like this." Mike entered the room. His face was pale, and the bank notice in his hand was shaking. "Linda, was it really you?" "Why?" "Since Dad passed away, I've lived with his words in my heart," Linda answered. "I thought it was my responsibility to support the family. But now I understand that one-sided support isn't the true bond of family." Her mother Helen began to cry. "Since Harold died, I felt like I had lost everything," she confessed. "It was painful to look at Linda because she resembled you." Those words sent something through Linda's heart. She had never understood why her mother alienated her. But now, she knew it was because of her resemblance to her father. It was painful for her mother to see a daughter who reminded her of her husband. "Mom." Linda approached and took Helen's hand. "Dad loved all of us. He wanted us to support each other. But for that support, honesty is necessary." Diane also began to cry. "We didn't know, no, we pretended not to notice. We knew our income wasn't enough to live in a house like this. But mysteriously, we could make the payments every month. Why didn't you tell us?" Mike asked. For the first time, there was sincerity in his voice. Linda answered quietly, "I thought it would make you happy. But I was wrong. Family needs respect and understanding, not money." The three of them were silent for a long time. Then, for the first time, Diane said in a sincere voice, "That day, at the door. I'm really sorry for saying those things. We were terrible." Her mother nodded. "Me too. I didn't mean to hurt you. Maybe I was just jealous seeing you succeed." Linda was surprised by those words. It was the first time her mother had acknowledged her success. "Let's be honest with each other from now on," Linda suggested. "And let's each learn to stand on our own feet." Outside, people were still gathered in front of the house. The bank officers were still waiting. When the three returned to the entrance, a quiet expectation ran through the crowd. Linda stepped forward and began speaking calmly. "A dialogue with the family has begun. This is our problem. but at the same time, it's a microcosm of family issues that many people face. I believe that with sincerity and dialogue, any relationship can be mended." At her words, quiet applause arose from the gathered people. Linda also approached the bank officer and said in a low voice, "I'll come to the branch tomorrow. I'd like to discuss this month's payment." Diane looked at Linda and expressed genuine gratitude for the first time. "Thank you. But it's time for us to stand up on our own." Their mother Helen also approached her daughters and took their hands. "If Harold were watching, he would tell us not to embarrass ourselves," she smiled. "From now on, let's be a real family." The gathered people began to disperse slowly. Linda still couldn't believe it. An event that started with just one post was fundamentally changing family relationships. As she was leaving, that elderly woman approached Linda again. "Your courage is influencing many people," she said quietly. "Sometimes, speaking the truth can be the greatest form of love." Linda nodded at those words. By expressing feelings she had suppressed for a long time, she had taken the first step toward building a true family bond. 6 months later, in the Boston suburbs. On a weekend in early autumn as the leaves began to change color, Linda sat at a terrace table of a small cafe. Across the table was her mother Helen, along with her new friend Eleanor, a woman she had met through volunteer activities at the regional senior center. "This tea is really delicious," Helen said contentedly. She had changed remarkably over the past 6 months. Her hairstyle and clothes had become more youthful, and a lively light had returned to her eyes. "Linda, thanks to you, I've found a new life," she thanked Linda. The Morrison family had changed significantly. Diane and Mike had given up their luxurious house and moved to a smaller home that matched their income. They had learned to prioritize financial independence over a luxurious lifestyle. "I've stopped keeping up appearances," Diane had told Linda at lunch last week. "True happiness is finding contentment within your means." Incredibly, Diane was now taking financial management classes at a community college. And her relationship with Mike seemed to have deepened. They had initially struggled financially, but gradually that strengthened their bond. "You know, Linda," Helen said as she put down her cup. "I heard you're the speaker for next week's workshop on rebuilding family bonds." Linda nodded. Inspired by her social media post, workshops to improve family relationships were now regularly held in the area. Linda occasionally shared her experiences there. Family issues are complex, but with honest dialogue, there's a chance to repair relationships, was the message she conveyed to participants. Linda herself had changed too. She had become more candid in expressing her feelings and had established healthier boundaries both at work and in her private life. She no longer shouldered everything alone as she used to. After leaving the cafe, Linda headed to a nearby park. Sitting on a bench, feeling the autumn breeze, she opened a photo of her father on her phone. "Dad, we took the long way around, but we've finally become a real family," she whispered softly. Linda's social media post had evolved from a mere expression of anger into a catalyst that made many people consider the meaning of family. Her words, "Sometimes, speaking the truth can be the greatest form of love," resonated with many hearts. As the day began to fade, Linda stood up. Tonight, a family dinner was scheduled at Diane and Mike's new home. Though small and modest, it contained a genuine warmth that wasn't about appearances or pretense. She took a deep breath and looked up at the sky. Her relationship with her family wasn't perfect, and they would likely face various challenges in the future. But now, they had a solid foundation of mutual respect and honest confrontation. A true family, Linda smiled. It might have been a bit different from what her father had envisioned. But its essence, understanding and supporting each other, was surely what he had been trying to teach. Linda left the park and headed to the dinner party with a peaceful heart, as a member of her renewed family.